Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Wayne. I want to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. I would appreciate that if you're getting something out of the content that I put up here. Today we're talking about pick hold, and right there what I was just playing, that swingy kind of feel. Not only this style of playing with my right hand, but everything for me has changed since about October of 2019, when I actually committed to the pick hold that I'm using now, which is more like the whole make your fist. That's what I committed to at the beginning of 2020. It's been quite a journey. I'm going to take us back right now to a video. I'm pretty sure this is from 2004. An instrumental of mine that I've used as part of an instructional DVD. I've got Mr. Kenny Smith playing some rhythm with me on here, but this goes back, I guess, about 16 years. All right, at that point, I can honestly say, as a 35-year-old at that time, I had never even thought about how I held my pick. It never crossed my mind. What I tried to do worked, so I just went with it. And I think the reason for that, I just grabbed a mandolin and started playing when I was a kid, and was immediately in situations with regional bands. Like, we would go in the studio to record a demo, and what I was able to do, and the tone that I was playing at that time, and the sound that I had with the group, I didn't hear anything wrong with it. I was totally into that final product and to what I was able to accomplish. And the process of getting there just didn't cross my mind. And it wasn't like I had met players yet that would be minded this way, to pay attention to pick hold or technique, honestly, in any way whatsoever. So I worked on tremolo and playing all down direction with the pick for Bill Monroe style. Particular era of his playing that was heavy down strokes like that. But it eventually, ended up on my radar. I have kind of a journey into this, and I'll show you this next video. You can see both of my fingers at this point are going to be under the pick, and it's a very awkward look. This is from about 6 years ago, so I'm going to say 2014, somewhere in that neighborhood time-wise, from Mandolin Mondays. And you can see the difference with the two fingers under, and then these fingers kind of out. I can't even really do that at this point, but check it out. right. So that hold there was an evolution somewhere between, or in that 10-year time, things changed. In the first video, it looks like, you can't really tell with that camera angle, but I think it's just one finger on the bottom of the pick, but still my hand kind of out like that instead of more tucked in, the way I'm trying to do things now, which is working way better now that I'm getting used to it. But the thing that ever, I think, caused this transition to me, I'm putting all this out there because if you have issues with your right hand, don't ever think that it's too late to change it. I mean, if I can, as a 50-year-old, you more than likely can make a transition. You just have to commit to it. But at one point, one of my students gave me this book. It's called, I'm pretty sure it's Standard Notation for the Tab Addicted Mandolin Player. I'll put a picture of it up. It was something like that, because I can't read music. I don't read notation. So I got this book. I don't think I would have purchased it. I wasn't really in the market to try to learn to read music. But I started looking through the book and I thought, well, there are going to be language barriers here because I'm not tab addicted. I had never learned anything from tab, and I thought, okay, let's do something that's cool or whatever. So I chose this classical piece that Mike Marshall and Daryl Anger did this great record way back, I think in 1983, and I used to listen to it all the time. In this classical cut, Partita 3 in E major, I think that's what it is, that I had always loved. Well, during the time that all this was going on, Bela Fleck had recorded it on a classical project of his, I think that's called Perpetual Motion. And his recording is in G instead of E, but I would listen to it and then Mike's recording just to hear the difference in the way they phrased and all that. Anyway, Mike Marshall, who is one of my heroes, I would have never listened to classical music at all had it not been for his cut on that recording. And I liked it because it was mandolin and it was him playing, and the execution is perfect. It's all of those things that we love about Mike right there, and you could hear it so well because it's a solo piece. Anyway, I get this tab book of his so that I can begin to understand the whole language of tab or whatever. And in the process of that, just fell in love with trying to learn that tune. So I was playing more than I had in years. By this point, my son was probably 5 years old. He was in preschool. And I can remember taking him to school, and then as soon as I would get back home in the morning, having some time with him being at preschool, and I would drink coffee and work on this tab and listen to the recording of it, was really into it and playing more hours than I had since before he was born. And as a result of that, I did discover the limitations of my pick hold, because my hand would really fatigue, and it was a struggle for me to learn that. I worked on it so hard. I can remember giving out Halloween candy in our neighborhood, and like in between batches of kids coming to the door, I would be sitting there with that book. My wife had taken my son out to trick or treat, and I was manning our house, but any moment that I had, I was living with that book, and I started having real issues because of my pick hold. So at that time, I made it through that piece and got to the point that I could play it, and I have a recording of myself doing it just to document that for myself. It was a goal of mine that I had at the time. I never did even get back to the standard notation thing, because at that point I was really thinking I need to do something about this with my right hand. So it kind of pulled at me for years, and then probably in October of 2019, I went through this weird phase of playing like this, that pick hold. I was doing that all the time at home, but still not comfortable enough to play like that on stage. So all of the 3TO gigs, I would go back to this pick hold. And it was amazingly awkward because now, it's been 5 days since I've played holding my pick this way, but I was still at that point better this way than the new pick hold. So I had this really weird 3-month stretch like that. Then beginning with 2020, New Year's Eve that weekend, we played in Jekyll Island, Georgia. That was my first gig with a new pick hold. And I was like completely terrified on stage. If you haven't ever been through a major shift like that, you probably don't realize the magnitude of it. But I'm putting this out here to encourage everyone that if you're maybe some of the other things that you've watched on the channel, if it's been, intervals of scales or whatever, something that might have been physically more challenging to you, if you feel like your right hand, if there's some limitations, you might want to try this. The pick that I'm using is a TAD 1R50. It's a blue chip pick. And I play with the pointed side of it. I don't use the rounded one. I just purchased it that way in case I wanted the feel of the rounder edge. With the pick hold that I had before, I used a teardrop 40, and I played with the round side. But with this particular pick hold, this is what felt more natural. And I did experiment with a lot of different picks, and I went through a book that I've mentioned before called The Practice of Practice. I tried to read through that whole book and apply those strong notions about how we're going to approach practicing. And I tried to go through all that with the new pick hold, and then just play tunes that I've played forever, because my sound changed. I had to get used to trying to play the same tone, but at the same time with this different technique, and to relearn dynamics. Tremolo technique, everything I was able to revisit all of that again. And as a result, I never have been real preachy when it comes to technique, as far as pick hold or right hand especially. But for anyone now, if you're just starting out, I'm going to say it's probably a good idea. You kind of make a relaxed fist, put the pick in there, get it comfortable. You can see how much closer the pick is to my wrist compared to the pick hold that I had before, where it would have been way out here. So it's more efficient, and I don't tire, and it's just made playing so much more fun than it had been in quite some time for me. And then the one good thing about the pandemic is all the time that we've had off took the pressure of playing live gigs off of me. So I've had months of just playing here at the house, making these videos and teaching lessons, and then just for the joy of playing the mandolin with this pick hold. And I'm growing to that place where I really don't think about it anymore. The same thing that I always mention about scales and all the fundamentals on the fretboard. You have to know that stuff so well that you stop thinking about it. Well, with pick hold, I mean, you have to be so comfortable with that it's really not even on your mind. So I would say, for anybody that's looking to change up, give this a try. Check out that book, The Practice of Practice, and just look at some other, amazing right hands, and try to learn from that. Tony Rice's pick hold is pretty close to that. Somebody that I've always noticed. And Doral Lawson, I think his fingers are more out like this, but it's just that index finger and thumb. That doesn't feel as natural to me if I'm only going to use one finger. It's more, the fist is just a little, especially rhythm-wise, I'm afraid that I'm going to hit the mandolin or something when I'm chopping, when I tried the fingers out like that. But experiment with it and see what you come up with. You owe it to yourself, and believe me, it's never too late.